Hey everybody, I'm Joseph Payton. Welcome back into the WSAZ Now studio. This is WSAZ Sports Plus. This is our Wednesday stream, which of course means Keith Morehouse joins us up here in the WSAZ Now studio, and it means we're talking college football, Keith. No Marshall Thundering Herd last week. A lot of people went over to that soccer game, and that was a big one for them, coming back home and beating Georgia State. So you want to start with the boys in Morgantown, who were all the way out in Provo, Utah this past Friday night.
Yeah, it was a Friday night game, 10:30. Lots of strange occurrences, at least for West Virginia. They never played out at BYU. BYU comes in ranked and got a chance to watch almost all of that game and really impressed with that Bachmeier kid, the quarterback at BYU. He started out setting the tone. His receivers, the Chase Roberts kid was the big kid that we saw that had a couple of explosives, and Parker Kingston, I think, had 2 touchdowns. This is a trend that we're kind of seeing with West Virginia. They had the tendency to give up these big plays. Some of that shows those other guys are really good. I mean, obviously BYU playing in front of a rabid crowd, it was always going to be a tough matchup. But Bachmeier was 351 yards, a touchdown, and West Virginia once again gets behind. And it's always tough when you have a young quarterback, Khalil Wilkins, starting, when you put him in a situation like that and they're already down. So you kind of feel like it's an uphill climb the rest of the way. And he threw an early pick that was almost a pick six, which led to their second touchdown. And by then, 14-0, you got walloped really early, and you got to kind of try to come back. And it was an uphill climb from there for West Virginia.
Kind of had the old school Pac-12 after dark vibes.
Yeah.
A lot of points being scored. Neither one of them are in the Pac-12. Of course, BYU, I think at one point they were. I don't remember. Maybe Utah was.
Mountain West. They were Mountain West.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Utah was in the Pac-12 at one point and then ended up joining the Big 12. But final score was 38-24 in favor of BYU. We talked about the quarterback situation last week, but we recorded the episode before they rolled out Marchiol for the year. Mm-hmm. That's the reality now. Do you think Wilkins is the guy moving forward?
I really don't think that Coach Rodriguez knows yet. I mean, they gave him the ball and they gave him the keys in that game. But, again, you can't kind of put that much pressure on him as a young guy. He did some really good things. He obviously is fleet of foot. He can move. However, his numbers, 7 of 15, 81 yards, and he had those 2 picks. And it looks like Marchiol may transfer anyway. So Coach Rodriguez is clearly looking to see who that next answer is. They brought Scotty Fox in late. He threw a beautiful ball for a touchdown to Cam Vaughn late in that game. So I think he's still trying to experiment. He's got a week off this week to try to get it right. But they can't continue in this league that's so good to get down early and then try to muddle their way back.
And I told the team, or the guys in the locker room, is everybody doing everything they can to help us win? If they are, we still ain't winning, then we know. I know how to fix it. It's not my first rodeo. I know how to fix it. Something's going to be fixed, after the season. But are we doing everything we can to win? Are we doing every person in the program? And I'm not saying we're not, but I think there's another level we can get to.
So, yeah, they've got a week off, and I think they've been waiting for this. From their injury standpoint, they needed it. I mean, they've gotten so many guys banged up. They'll likely get some guys back. A few of those guys are out for the year. So I think he'd been waiting on this bye week. And then next week they go right back into it, go down to Orlando to take on Central Florida, who has played some pretty good football.
Yeah, and you think about not just kind of the woes on offense there when you're trying to break in a new quarterback seemingly every week, but BYU outgained them by a pretty wide margin. You give up 518 yards of total offense. BYU was 4 for 4 on fourth downs. Yeah. You got to try and get off the field in those situations as best you can.
Yeah, they even ran a fake field goal and it was effective. Fred Perry, I thought, for West Virginia had some big plays. He had that disruption there on the little option pitch deep in BYU territory, which led to a score. So they're getting some individual efforts, but I just think those chunk plays that the other teams are getting on a pretty regular basis are what's killing them on defense, and that's something they're going to have to sort through as they navigate the rest of this Big 12 schedule.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about the lack of patience that college football fans sometimes have. Do you think this is kind of just a natural consequence of so much roster turnover with a new head coach? Basically, hey, let's give Rich Rod some time here.
I mean, I think the fan base to a big degree feels that way. You're going to get the extremes out there that say, hey, this is a bad decision. There's so much money involved in hiring coaches. You know this. to bring Coach Rodriguez back. I mean, that's a big investment, and you're not going to judge him on 1 year. It's not the year that anybody has wanted in Morgantown, and they certainly thought, especially after that Pitt win, that they had a chance to be, a competitive football team, and they still do. But right now, in the thick of this Big 12 league play, they've been exposed a little bit, and I get the feeling you kind of sense it from hearing Coach Rodriguez talk about it that, hey, Rome wasn't built in a day. This is not going to turn around in 1 year. And so I think the fan base, to a large extent, feels that same way.
And, of course, the injuries aren't his fault either.
No.
I mean,
no, you lose
that's out of your
White.
control.
Yeah, I mean, and with the wide out, and White is a stud, and he's had Ty Edwards has been out for a little bit too, who obviously had that great game against Pitt. So it just seems like sometimes you just get on this roll where you can't reverse it, and everything's kind of crumbling around you because of injuries. So that's part of it. Part of it is personnel. He's got to get his players in there. And, again, part of it is Coach Rodriguez coming back to this new revamped Big 12 and realizing, all right, what do I have to win in this league? And that's all part of the process.
Keith, let's move up to Columbus. A rare night game in the Horseshoe. The Buckeyes
Those
show
fans
out.
have been waiting for so long, right?
Well, they're going right back to a big nooner here on Saturday.
I know. They can't get away from it. But that one's at least on the road. But, they look just as impressive as I thought. There were some that thought Minnesota might put up a fight, and P.J. Fleck even said, look, man, we just got wailed on all three phases, offense, defense, special teams. Julian Sand continuing to show he doesn't seem like he's a new guy, starting his first season, 326 yards and 3 touchdowns and distributing. Carnell Tate had a big game, Jeremiah Smith. And, when you can get those guys going and also the run game, I mean, you look down that schedule, they're going to be hard to stop.
We talked a little bit before we pressed record about the Ohio State offense. You look there, 42 points, and, a guy like Julian Sand going for more than 300 yards, that's a great day. The one thing that some Ohio State fans would like to see is maybe just quicker starts. It feels like in the first quarter they're in these dog fights and they're running the ball, and that's fine. You got to establish the run, but maybe with more experience under his belt, they'll start letting air it out earlier in games.
Yeah, and maybe have the option to ad lib a little bit because he clearly can throw the ball. But Ryan Day's not going to show his whole hand right now. I mean, it's like a prize fight. You're going to feel him out for a couple rounds, and then you go to your guys, your playmakers who you have to go to. I mean, defensively they weren't ever going to that game they dominated. I think I read a stat, Joseph, that it's the first time since 1979 they've held 5 straight opponents to 10 points or fewer.
Wow, that was Art Schleicher era back then.
That's way back in the day. Yeah. So. Their defense has been good. Gave up 162 total yards. Note here, Minnesota was 1 for 11 on third down. You can hold your opposition to 1 for 11. You're going to win a lot of ball games. And if they get those, they get that complementary football, offense and defense. You got to look down the list in the Big Ten and see who's going to beat them. Yeah,
and it's similar to last year's team, just in that they don't necessarily have to put up 42 points to win ball games. With that defense just absolutely suffocating you, you could make the argument that this defensive line is even better than what they were last year.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the week about how they've been dominant, and that all that does is just help Sand play more freely, realizing that, hey, I don't have to score 40 points to win. You can win a game in the Big Ten. It used to be 14-7. I don't think they're ever going to have a game where they score 14 in the Big Ten unless it's late in the year in that classic shootout with that team up north, as they call. But it's just a team that's got seemingly everything working together. All the components are together midway through the season, and that was a dominant performance on Saturday.
Now they go to Champaign, Illinois, a place that they haven't been for quite some time. You think about how large the Big Ten has gotten. There's 18 teams in it now. Mm-hmm. So you go on these stretches where you don't see a team for 5, 6, 7 years. They have not played Illinois since 2017. That was kind of hard for me to believe.
Yeah,
but then I started
crazy,
thinking about it, and that's the truth.
It is.
Haven't been in Champaign since 2015. And it's a shame because the Illabuck's a fun trophy to play for.
The Illabuck, yeah. And it's the first time these two have played as ranked opponents since 2001. That's the last time they met, as they were both ranked in the top 25. So the Illini, I mean, they got to be excited about this one. If they can get their crowd to wake up early in Champaign and, bring a little noise, that looks like that'll be a much better matchup than the one we saw on Saturday. I would think the Illini have been playing some pretty good football.
They certainly have. That's Brett Bielema there these days, right? I mean, that's a guy who over the course of his career has proved he knows how to win ball games. Can he have a little bit of Juice Williams magic? Because that's the last time that the Illinois Fighting Illini beat Ohio State there in 2007. I was there. I was crushed.
Oh, yeah.
Juice Williams on third down just absolutely killing Ohio State, man. That was a brutal day to be in the horseshoe if you're wearing scarlet and gray.
Yeah, I mean, you can hang your hat on beating Ohio State if you're the Illini and Bielema can get one. Obviously, it's going to help them a long way. But, sometimes those noon games, certainly Ohio State's used to them, but now you go on the road for a noon game, that's a little different animal. So I would expect them to be a much bigger test for the Buckeyes than the Golden Gophers were.
I would imagine that's an 11 o'clock kickoff there, right?
Yeah,
I would imagine Champagne's
Illinois.
In the Central Time Zone.
I believe you're right. Yes, sir. Yes,
will
sir.
be interesting. Gus and Joel will be on the call. So.
They'll wake you up.
It's not like having Keith Morehouse on the call for a Marshall game, though.
Well, Gus brings a lot of fun to those games, man. And when the way Sayan's throwing it around to Smith and Tate, his inflection starts to rise and he's going deep. It's fun to listen to him for sure.
Let's move further south now. Georgia beats Kentucky 35-14, and really the closest it ever got was 14-7 there early in the first half.
Yeah, and we knew this going in. Georgia was coming off a tough game, and they were in a very good mood. And of course, neither was Kentucky, but it shows there's a little bit of a gulf between those top SEC teams and the Cats right now, and that's not any. I'm not saying anything that's some kind of wise football saying. That's just the truth. Cutter Boley. They threw it around a lot because they trailed. Like we mentioned it, they were closest they got was 14-7, and then the floodgates opened up, which sort of is their MO this year. It's happened at, when they played South Carolina, and now it's happened at Georgia. Same respect we were talking about with West Virginia. You can't get behind on the road against a really good team. You just can't. And it sounds simple, but if you can fight a little bit and keep your head above water, then you can be in those games a little bit longer, and then it's not a blowout. They were outgained 428-270, and again, Cutter Boley's doing the best he can, but he's got to get some help on that offense if they're going to make a little more noise in the SEC.
Yeah, that 14-7 score turned out to be 28-7 at one point there in the third quarter. That's just what Georgia does. They rattle off points on you, and they don't give up many.
No, and they can do it. They do it quickly too. And then you look up and you think, hey, this is a game, and then you see the scoreboard and you go, how'd that happen so quick? That's what they do in Athens for sure.
It doesn't get any easier for Kentucky. Of course, you're in the SEC, and you know what they say each week, gauntlet. They at least don't have anybody this Saturday, so they can kind of think about this one. But next week, Texas at home.
Yeah, and I think Coach Stoops is also looking forward to that open week because you just get banged up five games into the season. I think that's almost the perfect time for an open week. You get healed a little bit. You've been going at it hard since fall camp, no breaks. So that's going to be good. And you know what? The crowd will be fired up for Texas to come in. They haven't seen Texas. I don't think they've played it in Lexington yet. So that's a good opponent. Get the crowd in there and see if you can stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah, I guess, right? Some strange stuff happened in Muncie, Indiana, didn't it?
Oh, Muncie. We'll
go from the SEC to the MAC, right?
Oh, wow.
Man, Ball State beats Ohio 20-14.
Yeah. I was watching that game, and, of course, I always think back to the first time that Marshall played Ball State when Randy Moss was there, and he had 5 touchdowns that day.
We needed him.
Yeah, I know. Navarro could have used it. But that was a game, Joseph, and you know this. I watched the whole first half and caught parts of the second half, and I thought, man, they should be up 28-0 in that first half. They outgained them. They dominated offensively. The one thing I saw that you haven't seen kind of all year, even last year with Parker Navarro, he missed some guys who were wide open, and he would love to have those throws back. And any time, you let a team coming in 1-3, Ball State didn't have great credentials, but they just let them hang around and hang around and hang around. And if you do that and you're on the road, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and that's exactly what happened to the Bobcats there in that second half.
Yeah, it was 14-10 with about 9 minutes to go, and Ball State, I think they punted, and they had OU back deep in their own territory, inside their own 5. So you're just hoping, hand the ball off, get a couple of first downs, get yourself out of your own end zone, and the worst thing that could have possibly happened. Bad snap, safety, 14-12. And at that point, you felt like this is a real possibility of not just escaping out of here with a win. You're probably going to lose now.
Yeah, and the worst part about that safety is, you're just giving the ball right back to them. You get the 2 points, and they get the ball again. And I will say their quarterback was versatile. He's an athletic kid. and they outgained Ohio, which surprised me with your notes here, 266 to 100 in the second half. You wouldn't expect to see that when you watch what Ohio did against West Virginia and how well they played Ohio State. But you know how league play is. You go into a place like that, and all of a sudden you got not really a big crowd, and you don't have your crowd. So and it starts to tilt the other way. It's hard to reverse it. And I know Brian Smith and that team, they're just kicking themselves because that's a game they should have won.
Yeah, I felt like there was a little bit of a tale of two halves. In the first half, I would have loved for us to finish more drives and be able to extend our lead and force them to have to throw a little bit more than they did. But poor execution offensively, I think, let them hang around longer than we really wanted them to. And second half, I think we struggled getting off the field defensively, and that started wearing on us and allowed for some late scores.
And that's the thing about the MAC that maybe is different from some of the Power 4 conferences, like that there isn't much of a talent gap. It's just one team's a little bit better and has maybe a few more playmakers. Mm-hmm. But if OU walks in there as the better team and you get a C-plus effort out of them and Ball State comes with an A-, the A- wins out.
Yeah, and you know what? We always forget this with kids, 18 to 22 years old. They're college kids. They read all the internet stuff. They read the papers or whatever what you do with papers nowadays. But, you go from Ohio State and West Virginia, those big games and big atmospheres at Payton and in Columbus. And then you go to Muncie. No slam on Muncie, but, it's as my partner Sonny Randall used to say, that's an MCI crowd, friends and family. And, it's just a small gathering, and it's hard to get any juice. And when it really starts to go the other way, you look at each other, your teammates are looking and say, like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, like you said, the safety, they march it back down, and at the end of the game, they come, and you're walking off the field going, how'd we lose that game?
Honestly, I just think we beat ourselves. They were a good defense, but I just think Ohio beat ourselves today. It was too many mistakes that we made, and it was just too many things that we couldn't come back from, and we just got to pick it up this week in practice.
That's got to be how everyone in Athens feels right now.
Yeah, and that's not a game, not to, again, besmirch Ball State, but they're not one of the better teams in the league. Mm-hmm. They were Saturday. They obviously, but that just goes to show you what coaches preach every week, man. You cannot take someone for granted, especially on the road. You might have won that game at home, but when you're on the road and you make those mistakes, those will come back to haunt you.
Yeah, and if you're Ohio, you're probably thinking, going undefeated in MAC play was going to be difficult anyways.
Yeah.
But you could probably see yourself losing a game to a Miami or a Western Michigan or a Buffalo. And just like last year, they lost to Miami in the regular season, still found themselves in Detroit. Now when you lose to somebody like Ball State, Miami, Western Michigan, and Buffalo are still on your schedule. You have to win all three.
Yeah.
And then all the others at the same time. That just makes it that much more difficult to get to your ultimate goal.
It does. And you know what it also does? Now you sit on that for 2 weeks. So, in your mind, you're going crazy as a player. You're going, oh, my gosh, how'd we lose that? And you're hearing all the chatter and everything and all the outside noise that coaches try to protect you from. And so they got to wait until they're back home on the 18th to play Northern Illinois. I think they'll be fine. It's hard in any league to go undefeated. But, again, that's just a game that, if you're honest with yourself and you're chalking up wins and losses on the schedule beforehand, that's one you probably had chalked up to a win.
Yeah, well, it will be homecoming. When they come back, we know that Northern Illinois and that coach, they don't fear a soul. So
no.
You go up to Notre Dame last year and win a ball game. They're not afraid of coming to Athens. So OU's going to have to bring it, that's for sure.
In fact, he was playing for NIU when I was calling that game way back in the day.
Go.
Thomas Hammock, and he's been a guy that's, he seems to me says all the right things.
He's awesome.
I love to hear him after these games and after that Notre Dame game. I mean, he was passionate. He said, this is about NIU and. That you would run through a wall for a guy like that, and he's a guy that obviously is an alumnus, and they'll come ready to play. They build them tough up there in Northern and in DeKalb and around the Chicago area.
They certainly do. You want to move on to Marshall. We didn't see him on Saturday because they had a bye week. Mm-hmm. Of course, coming off the loss to Louisiana that everyone wishes would have turned out a little bit differently. And they'll have their hands full. Old Dominion's a good football team.
Yeah, they are. And, Joseph, you mentioned we talked about Ohio now has to wait 2 weeks. They said on this Louisiana loss for 2 weeks. They were up 17 in the fourth quarter. By all accounts, from coach on down to every player who talked after that game, they should have won that game. And so, I even had a chance to ask Coach and some of the players about that 2 week break and having to sit on that loss. Is it kind of a good thing because it motivates you a little bit more? And here's what they had to say.
Yeah, it's good and bad. You hate that feeling coming off of a loss, and then you have a long time to think about it. And, the more you watch, the madder you get as a coach, and you don't move on. So, that was what last week was for. This week, all our focus has been on ODU. They're a great football team, coach really, really well, and have great players. So, we just have to, it was good because we fixed a lot of things. And, so now we have to go put it to test again.
It motivates me a lot, and I feel like it motivates the team a lot too, because we coming off a game where we was up 17 points in the fourth quarter, and we could have won, and just mental mistakes that costed us the game. So this break is we thinking, we getting everything situated, fixing our mistakes, corrections. So going into this game, I feel like everything is going to be down apart.
Like I said, that's for my position and in detail. Like, that's a big thing that we have to keep in our mind, but not let it slow our play down. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, the score can go up or down just depending on corners and how we play. A ball over top is very like, a wound to you. So we just try to keep everything in front of us and challenge everybody. You don't go in with a mindset of, oh, they're putting up points, so I'm going to play scared. You go in the mindset of, I'm going to challenge him like he'll challenge me.
And the other motivating factor, as you mentioned, alluded to, Old Dominion's really good. They might be the class of the league right now. Watching them, they beat Virginia Tech soundly at Tech, lost to Indiana in a close game by 13, and everybody else they've blitzed by 14 or more. They beat Coastal on Saturday 47-7. Their quarterback was sitting on the bench in the second half, Colton Joseph. He'd already done his damage. And this guy, Coach Gibson said in the news conference, is the best quarterback they will have played this year. And they played a good kid from Missouri State, Jacob Clark, who was more of a pro-style quarterback, and Gunnar Stockton from Georgia, who's really good too. But this guy has thrown for 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. He's also a threat to run the ball. And if Marshall had trouble defending that kid, Lunch Winfield, against Louisiana, they got to lock in on this guy because he can hurt you. And even Coach Gibson and some of the defensive players said, we got to pick and choose when we try to heat him up, because if he knows you're coming, he's going to kill you. He's been really, really good this year.
So much like Tony Gibson talked about the Middle Tennessee State woes there a few weeks back, he said that has nothing to do with me. Right. I guess none of these stats have to do with him either. But it is interesting. Old Dominion has never won in Huntington, you say? Yeah,
it's not like Marshall's blown them out. There have been a lot of close games. There was last year. It was 42-35. Marshall won on the road, but for whatever reason, they've had their number in Huntington. And Ricky Ronnie's a really good coach at ODU, and I will probably talk with him later this week and ask him what he thinks about it. But he's telling his guys that too. I mean, he wants them to come in here motivated. But Marshall has, they won 7 in a row against them, lost in 2016 in Norfolk. But he's going to be preaching that, maybe pinning it up on the lockers all week long about, hey, we got to go win in Huntington, because they haven't.
The Joan does have that effect on some teams, man. There will be teams that they feel like, we usually play Marshall pretty well, but not when you come here to Huntington.
No, I mean, and over the years since '91 when that stadium opened, they're 5th or 6th or in the top 5 in winning percentage. It's just they've just been really good at home. The crowd gets behind them, and what they will have to do is obviously they have to play better defense than they did against Louisiana. But their offense has really started to click. Carlos Del Rio Wilson's #1 in the nation in passing efficiency. He's been really good. Floyd Lacey, the wideout, starting to become a real playmaker for him, and Michael Allen had a big game against Louisiana. So they're going to have to score some points. Conversely, they're going to have to find some way to stop that offense of ODU, because they've scored on everybody.
Yeah. Is that kind of what you're most going to be paying attention to? Is maybe the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, every stop you get against a guy like that is a good stop. And if you can get him off the field, even if he puts together a long drive, but you can hold him to 3, I think every one of those instances, if they can punt it 2 or 3 times, I think that's a win for your defense. And I think that's probably what Shannon Morrison will stress to his guys. Just get them off the field. And if you can do that and your offense can click, and then we're talking about maybe the same situation as Ohio and Ball State. You get some confidence on your home field and then see if you can go steal one.
Well, there was one team that ran into that in the Power Four. Well, a couple, I guess, but Penn State certainly was one of them. I just have it down here as additional notes, man. Did you watch any of that Penn State UCLA game?
I saw the highlights, and
oh my.
To be honest, winless UCLA going in there and beating Penn State.
Didn't even have their head coach, didn't have their offensive coordinator. I mean, the wheels had fallen off in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah, they were off the bandwagon, and if they're, I don't know if they've jumped back on, but I know that things aren't good, and it's not Happy Valley this week, put it that way. Their fans are upset, and that's a win that you talk about, the one that you look at every day Saturday and you go, what? UCLA beat Penn State? Yeah.
And I just think, man, they had to have just let Oregon beat them twice. You know, so much stock was put into this season, and all those guys returning, and all this talent at their disposal, all this experience on both sides of the ball, and arguably the best backfield in the country. I know Notre Dame might have something to say about that as well, but you lose a thriller in your own building to Oregon, and then you just didn't even get on the plane to UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, we're also starting to hear some of these Big Ten coaches, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when Ryan Day and the Buckeyes went over there a day early when they had to play Oregon. Well, so now Penn State's got to go to UCLA, and the coaches now are talking about travel. Well, this is what happens when you construct a league and you got a team in Los Angeles and a team in the eastern Pennsylvania.
Piscataway.
Yeah, and Piscataway, even farther away. Same thing when Cal has to go play Duke in basketball. I mean, this is something where no one's thought this stuff through, but I'm sure the travel is an issue. But that's the league everybody wanted, and now you got to go play, and that's the hard part. And I'm sure that was certainly a factor. But you still got to go out there if you're Penn State and win that ball game.
Yeah. And another team that had a lot of preseason hype that I don't believe is even ranked after this week.
No.
Did Texas fall out of the top 25 after getting beat by Florida?
They are out.
My
yes.
goodness.
Yeah, and that, you know, they're going through the same thing. Florida hadn't played very well. I mean, their coach was on the hot seat, Coach Napier. They've
been talking about that for years.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Billy Napier.
Yeah, like is this the year he's going to go? Is he going to hang around and then to go beat Texas? And they've got their own issues. Everybody talks about NIL and money, and nobody has more of that than Texas, I wouldn't think.
Maybe A&M.
Yeah, well, that's true, right next door. But, yeah, I mean, that's just a game. It's just a head-scratcher. But you're seeing this happen in these reconfigured leagues where maybe Texas – I've been to the Swamp. It's maybe the loudest place I've ever been to. So you go down there and you play. I mean, it's a hard place to play. And, you know, if you're going there for the first time, you're all wide-eyed looking around like, what is this? That's life in the SEC, right?
That's how I felt about Hunter Green pitching in L.A. the other day. He probably got out there and was like, whoa.
I know, he looked around. And,
Poor guy, man.
Oh, man, that lineup, having to negotiate that lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dodgers have their own issues in the bullpen, but, man, they got some hitters.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
No kidding. Like I said, and back to the college football stuff, I mean, both of those teams now with 2 losses, but with the amount of parity we've already seen throughout the entire country, who knows what's coming. If those teams were able to win out and be 10-2, it'd be hard to keep them out of the college football playoff conversation, especially Penn State. I mean, if you beat Ohio State, I think all things will be okay.
Oh, no question. If you can go through the Big Ten or the SEC and go 10-2, then yeah, you're absolutely in the conversation, especially the way that they're given additional weight, and justifiably so. Those are 2 really, really good football leagues. But it just goes to show you, man, every Saturday, and you're in these leagues where you got to travel across the country, you better get your guys ready. And that's where the coaches earn their money, because that's a tough task.
Anything else, Keith, that you can think of before we let you go here
I'm trying to
in the WSAZ Now studio? Like I said, it's hard to believe we're halfway through the college football season. But I mean, really, the conference title races haven't taken shape at all.
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting right into conference play, the meat of it right now, and we're gonna see more upsets. It's not just gonna be in the Big Ten and the SEC. You're gonna see them in the MAC. You'll see them in the Sun Belt. You'll see them in the Big 12. This is where you kind of make your money as a program, if you can go in and out of these places on the road and steal a couple on the road, win most of your games at home, and then see if you can get to the championship game. I mean, that even last year, Marshall wasn't lights out in the early part of this season. Then they won the last eight in a row there at the end to kind of turn things around. So, and this is when coaches figure out who they have and maybe except in the case of Coach Rodriguez because of injuries. Now you kind of got your lineup set. Who's your guy here? Who's your guy here? And you kind of know who your go-to players are. And so this is a really critical part of the season if you're in league play because now it gets fun.
And like you talked about with Old Dominion and Marshall, both picked kind of in the center of the pack, and then both of their trajectories have kind of gone in opposite directions. Well,
yeah.
Something could change this Saturday.
Well, I mean, I would think if you can't motivate your team to go play ODU, you know, they're the right now the marquee program. They're the ones that are getting all the attention, and rightfully so. I mean, they don't have just the quarterback. They got running backs. They got wideouts, and their defense has been good. So I think that their disparity between what they gained offensively and what they held Coastal to last year was the best they ever did in the FBS.
Wow.
This is 500 and some yards difference. Game was over at halftime. So if that doesn't wake you up, maybe you should go back and look at the film a little bit.
Strap your helmet on a little tighter this week now.
There you go. That's what's fun about college football. You never know.
That's right. Well, Keith, certainly appreciate you joining us up here.
Always appreciate having me, Joseph.
We'll see you next week. I guess everyone else will see you Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
We'll be there.
And, of course, on the 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock sports every night, too.
If the good Lord's willing, the creek don't rise, right? Isn't
That's what they say around here, and
yep.
Lord knows we've seen the creek rise.
It's probably rising right now.
It might be. All right, thanks, man.
Thanks, Joseph.
All right, that does it for this episode of WSAZ Sports Plus. Of course, we thank Keith Morehouse for joining us each Wednesday up here to talk college football. Remember, go follow us on social media at WSAZ Sports Plus on pretty much every platform. You can find Keith on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook. And remember, we are on podcast platforms as well. That's Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It is free. You might as well do it. It only helps you out, right? It's going to notify you every time a new episode populates. And, of course, our full episodes are always posted anyways if you want to watch them after the fact over on WSAZ.com, the WSAZ app, and on the WSAZ YouTube channel. So with all that housekeeping stuff out of the way, we will go ahead and put a bow on this one. We will see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. This has been WSAZ Sports Plus.